tried to avoid Jeffrey, but he told me that if I wanted to succeed as a Ford model, he could make it happen. And he was right. He introduced me to Katie Ford and many others in the entertainment business. His grip on the modeling business was undeniable. Not just the Ford family, but Victoria's Secret, Faith Cates, Jean-Luc Brunel, Victoria's Secret. Epstein's reach went to the very top of fashion. He could make a model's career. What I didn't realize then was that once he lured someone like me in, he could also destroy my career if I did not do what he wanted me to do. In New York City, countless young women were abused by him. Everyone in the industry knew, yet he was too powerful to stop. He had friends in all over entertainment and arts, and his value to those friends made him untouchable. But I ask you, why? Who was he to our government that he was allowed to operate openly for decades? Why was he allowed to sponsor visas for young models, using their immigration status as leverage to abuse them and silence them? Epstein was not just a serial predator. He was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew this. Many participated, and many profited. And yet he was protected. I know what it's like to be trafficked to others. And I know that the files contain the names of powerful men who have been shielded because of their fame or their fortune. So I stand here today not just for myself, but for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. Thank you. And we are not asking for pity. We are demanding accountability. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? Transparency is justice. Release the files, end the secrecy, and stand with us in declaring that no one, no billionaires, no politicians, not world leaders, is above the law. And let me announce now, several of us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list of names. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else is involved. Stay tuned for more details on that. Because history is watching, and so are the women who will come after us. Thank you.
If that's not bravery, I do not know what is. Woo! Okay, we're bringing up another group of women. Ashley, Danny, Jess, Haley, and Wendy. Come on up.
Here we go.
Okay. Well, this will be fun. So my name is Ashley Rubright, and I am a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Some things I want to say. To any survivors out there who feel like they don't matter, it doesn't matter if you went once or countless times. We were groomed, we were manipulated, and we were taken advantage of.
Yep.
For decades, survivors have been suffocated by speculation. We've been mocked, we've been doubted, we've been re-traumatized, while those responsible hide in secrecy. Why don't we deserve justice? This is not partisan. However, this is very political, as the only path to justice is through our political system. And this is about justice. This is about accountability. This is about protecting the innocence of our children and honoring the dignity of survivors. Everywhere we turn, the story follows us. It's in headlines, jokes, music, grocery store checkout lines, random conversations that you hear people having in restaurants. For more than 20 years, we've been unable to escape it. And every time new promises are made, our sparks of hope are lit, only to be extinguished again. We are tired. However, we are not going away.
That's right. That's right.
We will not stop or give up, and we will be on the front lines of this battle. We are no longer scared. And let's be clear, there were so many enabling adults. Those enablers actively turned a blind eye, and they are the greatest danger.
Yep.
Yes.
And you know who you are,
Yep.
as do we. You allowed us to be abused for a fat check and a cushy life, which you still have. And to those in power, hear us clearly. Do your job.
Hey.
Release what needs to be released.
Yep.
Yes.
And hold those responsible accountable. Survivors, sorry. Thank you. Survivors deserve peace. Survivors deserve truth. Survivors deserve justice. And to my fellow survivors, your voice matters, your story matters, and you matter. Together we are louder than the silence. Together we will not stop until justice is done.
Good afternoon. Wow, a lot of people showed out for us today.
That's right.
I wasn't expecting all this support. What an incredible feeling, and thank you for everybody for being here. I'm going to try to make this as quick so the other girls don't have to be crunching for time. My name is Haley Robson. I came out in 2019 on the documentary Filthy Rich. I have been very focused on bringing more awareness to all of the survivors. I am so proud to stand with them. I am so proud to be up here to support them because they deserve all the love and support. And I just want to say to the women who chose this moment to come out for the very first time about your abuse, I cannot think of a more important, greater purpose in life than to stand in solidarity when time is against us, when the politicians have made us an enemy, when the world is watching and everybody is hoping for some type of result. Thank you for choosing this moment for the first time to be so brave to come out and stand in solidarity. I prayed for a moment. I prayed for this moment where God would fill us with reinforcements. I want to acknowledge all the women, unfortunately, that couldn't be here today because I think that is the only list of real great importance, and we should never forget the voices that were not only silenced, but that are not here today, and we should never forget the sacrifices that they made. So today I would like to take a moment for Virginia, Sky, Danielle, and Carolyn. Their voices were just as powerful, and they were silenced just as much. And for some reason, I can feel their spirit, especially Virginia's today. She would be so proud, and she would be so beside herself to see this one moment we have all came together to unite. And for our government, and for the politicians who have taken our trauma and have weaponized it against us, making it unbearable, making it unlivable, making it hard to move on in a life that we wish to live in happiness and joy and peace and injustice that can only come from within at this point. And we have gotten to this point. Shame on you. Shame on you for using our trauma to weaponize this moment. We are not going to be fooled by your trickery. We are not going to be fooled by the lies, by the conspiracy theories. We are the keys to this situation. We have the truth. and the FBI knows the truth. The government knows the truth. You may pull the wool over the sheep's eyes, but we are the keys. We know who was involved. We know the game. We know the players. And we are sitting here for 20 years waiting for you to get up and do something. Well, guess what? Your time is up, and now we're doing it.
How do you follow that? Hello, everybody. My name is Wendy Pasante, and I was abused by Jeffrey Epstein when I was 14 years old. I'm not here to relive what happened. I'm here to be counted and to make sure others are counted too. I once believed my silence was strength. Hold it together. Don't draw attention. Today I know that strength sounds like my voice. It sounds like everybody's voice is up here. Silence only protects predators, not children. People ask, what about the victims? We're here. We're here today, and there's more of us. I stand with many who are still finding their words. I live in a world where being understood is a struggle, where people in power would rather sweep us under the rug in hopes that we'll go away. We won't. Being a survivor is not a headline. It's our life. We have to live it. It's panic in a grocery store. It's smiling at work while my hands tremble. It's waking up at 3 a.m. with my heart racing and not knowing why. It's living with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and your nervous system's on guard at all times, even in the safest room around the safest people. Healing isn't tidy. It's therapy. It's wait lists. It's trying a medication and trying again, over and over, for years. It's setting boundaries with some people who won't understand. Survival isn't weakness, it's wisdom we've earned. If you are a survivor hearing me, your voice is never too late, too much, or too little. If all you could do was show up today, you're already trying to make a difference. You do not owe anyone your story. You are owed safety, care, and belief. Your breath is proof that harm does not get the last word. I'm not asking anyone to take a political side. I really don't even follow a lot of politics. I'm asking you to take a stand in solidarity. Protect the vulnerable, not the powerful. Protect children and survivors, not titles and reputations. Our silence doesn't keep us safe. And I hope today's courage from all of us ladies can help someone else be safer tomorrow. We are here and we refuse to be erased. So thank you guys for listening to all of us and being here today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. As I stand here today and look around, I want to acknowledge what it feels like to be in the presence of these incredibly brave, powerful women that I stand up here with. I am so empowered by each and every one of your fortitude, and I am following in the brave footsteps of those that came before me. While we each have our own stories and walk down different paths of life, we are bonded together as survivors. When I look into these beautiful faces, I am reminded that we all started our journeys with big hopes and dreams. Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, stole and systematically destroyed those dreams. We are a mosaic of shattered hopes and dreams at their hands. As an aspiring dancer, the manipulation came in forms of offering me dance studio space, discussing opportunities to meet with ballet masters, and aiding a very ill family member of mine, none of which would ever come to pass.
Instead, I was left in a cycle of abuse that wore me down and broke me. When it happened, I would have to completely disassociate. Similar to a coma, my brain would need to protect itself, so I would retreat in choreographing in my own head to escape the cruel acts that were being carried out on my body. After, I would go to the studio bundled in giant, baggy clothing. I remember standing there, staring in the mirror as if it were an empty void. I was past the point of tears. There was nothing left. I was a hollow shell of myself. I could no longer watch my body move, let alone dance. He had taken something sacred from me. 2 decades later, I am still experiencing lingering effects of what happened to me as a teenager. I am just one story in the mosaic of women taking back their power by confronting the horrific truths of their pasts due to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. We stand here today in the nation's capital for no other reason than to say that women's voices will not be marginalized. We stand together as a mosaic of stories, but we're also finding our way back to ourselves. We are reclaiming the fragmented shards of the hopes and dreams of our past to paint a better future for the next generation of women. This story has come to Washington to be told. We will be heard. Thank you.
My name is Jess Michaels, and I'm a 1991 Jeffrey Epstein survivor. 27 years. For 27 years, I thought I was the only one that Jeffrey Epstein raped. I believed I was alone, and I was kept silent by the shame that was inside me and by the fear outside in the world. But I wasn't the only one. None of us were. And what once kept us silent now fuels that fire and the power of our voices. We are not the footnotes in some infamous predator's tabloid article. We are the experts and the subjects of this story.
Yes.
We are the proof that fear did not break us.
Yes.
And we don't just speak for ourselves, but for every survivor whose story is still unspoken.
Yes.
For those not with us today. For Virginia, whose courage lit the path and opened the door for us to walk through. This is what power looks like. Survivors united, voices joined, refusing to be dismissed. Know this, justice and accountability are not favors from the powerful. They are obligations decades overdue. This moment began with Epstein's crimes, but it's going to be remembered for survivors demanding justice, demanding truth, demanding accountability, and we will not stop until survivor voices shape justice, transform culture, and define the future. We are no longer whispers. We are one powerful voice too loud to ignore, and we will never be silenced again. Thank you.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. We are going to bring up Eric Faduli, who is a lawyer. Sometimes survivors are ready to be seen, they're not ready to be heard. And so we would love to bring you up because you represent so many survivors who are so critical to this story.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Fudali, and I've had the privilege of representing up to 11 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, and one of them is standing next to me here today. This is Rosa. You may not realize this, but what I just did is the first time anyone has ever said Rosa's name publicly as being attached and being abused by Jeffrey Epstein. And this is also the first time she has ever appeared publicly as a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. And I say that because it was last night that she flew into Washington, D.C., inspired by the solidarity of all of you, by the compassion of all of you, and by the courage of all of you to be here today. And I'm so proud of Rosa, and I'm so proud of all of you. But the truth is, Rosa shouldn't be here today. Rosa shouldn't have to be here today, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Rosa was trafficked from Uzbekistan under the guise of a modeling contract in 2009. That means that Rosa wouldn't be here today if Alex Acosta hadn't had Jeffrey Epstein in his grasp, had what every single law enforcement officer dreams of, to stop a predator in his tracks. And what did he do? He gave him a slap on the wrist and let him to continue to abuse. And had he not, Epstein never would have met Rosa, and Rosa would not have to be here today. But none of you should have to be here today. None of you should have to be there today, because if when Jeffrey Epstein was finally arrested in 2016 and under federal custody, he wouldn't have been allowed to take his own life and avoid the accountability and justice you all deserve. And none of you should be here today because Ghislaine Maxwell should not have been given a platform to deny the crimes against her, who was convicted of trafficking and tricking 14-year-old girls. She should not have been given a platform, and she should not have been rewarded after that platform in a minimum security resort. And none of you should have to be here today because they should just release the files. No more slow rolling, no more meetings, no more strategy, no more interviews behind closed doors. Release the files and give you all and Rosa the accountability, the exposure, and most importantly, the closure you all deserve. Thank you.
Our last speaker this morning is no stranger to the plight of survivors. And so with that, I'd love to welcome Gloria Allred to wrap us up here.
Give a big round of applause to all the survivors and all the victims and all the supporters today. I commend you, and it matters that you're here. Let me just say, your voice is important, but power only recognizes power. And for many years, we have not exercised our power in a way that helped win change. And you all and we all have been betrayed. I represent Alicia Arden and 26 other brave survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and some of Ghislaine Maxwell. And in 1997, my client Alicia Arden went to the police in Santa Monica and said that she had been the victim of sexually inappropriate conduct by Jeffrey Epstein when he invited her to be auditioning for Victoria's Secret catalog. And she went to the police, and they said, why don't you think about it before you file a police report? She thought about it and came back the following week and filed the first documented police report against Jeffrey Epstein in 1997. And you all were betrayed because there was no prosecution. Believe women. Let's hear it. Believe women. Believe women. Believe women. And then the victims and all of us were betrayed when, in Florida, Mr. Acosta made that deal, U.S. Attorney, is for the Southern District of Florida, made that deal that instead of 60 felony counts that could have been filed by the United States Attorney, 2 counts were filed by the state attorney, and Jeffrey Epstein, without having a trial, was able to go to his office every day as part of the sentence and just sleep in the jail at night for 13 months. Is that justice? No! You were betrayed. And then, of course, there was New York. New York, where Jeffrey Epstein was brought in, arrested. I saw him at the last hearing in federal court. And so many victims and so many survivors thought, at last there's justice. But instead of justice, there was a dead body, the Metropolitan Correctional Center. And questions are still being asked. Was it suicide? Was it homicide? But the victims never got to testify at trial and confront that sexual predator. Was that justice? No! We're overdue for justice. We're not going to be waiting for justice. We are fighting for justice. And let me tell you, no more talk of the word pedophiles, which only means a man who is attracted to children. We're not talking about pedophiles. We're talking about sexual predators and child molesters. Let's get the word in about what the crime was that they committed. Do you agree? Yes. And finally, let me just say, these predators took advantage of vulnerable children, of vulnerable adults. We know how vulnerable women can be. And they abuse their power, and they abuse their trust. And it's time to meet power with power. There are 3 stages of evolution. The first is victim, the second is survivor, and the third is fighter for change. Are you going to be fighters for change? Not just today, but every day. Not just in politics in Congress, but in lawsuits, in speaking to people, your co-workers, your children, your mothers. Help them, support them to stand up to win justice, because nobody has ever given women and children any rights. We've always had to fight to win them. We've had to fight to keep them. Will you fight that fight? Yes. And I leave you with this, one of my favorite sayings. Pray for the dead, and that's for Virginia Roberts and all those who didn't make it here today. Pray for the dead. But fight like hell for the living. Keep up the fight. Let me hear it. Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. One last unbelievable rallying cheer for all the survivors here. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! Okay, everybody, there's the press conference starting in a few minutes. Do you want to just go on over, and we'll meet you over there, whoever wants to. Otherwise, stay here. We have this space for a while longer. Thank you so much.
I recorded all of it. but bolster our economic competitiveness. I am proud to have advocated for these resources to ensure that they were included in last year's WRDA. These programs allow communities in my district to have access to the infrastructure they need to flourish. And here's how. Under the Summit County New Authority, $25 million would have been authorized to fund projects such as Akron's water main and lead service line replacement, Fairlawn's West Market Street water line replacement, New Franklin South Main Street stormwater replacement, Barbara and Stratford Street waterline project, and Fairlawn's Rosemont Preserve project. Additionally, under Stark County's new authority, $24 million would have been authorized to fund projects such as Canton's Cromer Water Storage Reservoir replacement, improvements to the Ohio Erie Canalway Lock 4 Park, and North Lawrence's sanitary sewer project. Funding these projects is crucial to ensure my constituents have access to clean water in their homes. In order to truly make a difference for these communities, we must fully fund the programs that we authorize. For me, this is about my constituents and lowering their costs and allowing our communities to thrive. And because of aggressive gerrymandering in Ohio, people of Ohio's 13th Congressional District paid taxes that never made it back to our communities. These funds went to places like California, New York, and God forbid, Michigan. And here's just another example of snatching hard-earned constituents' dollars that they expected to be reinvested in their community only to be sent elsewhere to pay for billionaire tax cuts or something else nefarious and nothing that anyone asked for. I came to Congress to do right by my community. And as I said earlier, I am proud to have ensured that $49 million in new infrastructure authorities were included to be funded in our community. But this work cannot get done if we do not appropriate the money to get the shovels in the ground. And for this reason and many others, I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill because it does not lower costs and harms our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize Twinsburg firefighter and local hero Jacob Jarzab as Ohio's 13th Congressional District Champion of the Week. On August 17th, Joshua and his team responded to a 911 call for a basement fire. Joshua and his team acted swiftly, entering a burning home, fighting back flames, and clearing a path to the basement. Once underground, amidst thick smoke and scorching flames, Joshua and his team conducted a methodical search and later, excuse me, I lost my page. This is a really good story and I want you to hear it. Well, I don't know where it went, but here's the crux of the story. Joshua and his team entered into a house. They found an 8-month-old baby in the basement. Even though the flames were high and strong, they continued searching for this baby and ultimately rescued them. It took 12 minutes for Joshua and his team from the Twinsburg Fire Department to ensure that they got that baby out safe and sound. And I just want to say to Joshua and the entire Twinsburg Fire Safety Services team, there are people who run away from fire, but you all ran towards it. And not only do you run towards it, in that situation you ran every other day that you are on call. But in this particular moment, you saved a life, and we are so grateful for you. So to Joshua, the Twinsburg Fire Department, and all of those who protect and serve our communities, I say thank you and congratulations for being Ohio's 13th Congressional District Champion of the Week. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Ms. Fishbach, for 5 minutes.
I rise to congratulate the Piers Lakers in winning the Minnesota Baseball Association's Amateur State Championship. The Lakers fought valiantly through the Class C tournament, defeating the LeSueur Braves 11-1 to win the first ever state championship. It's great to see the tradition of town ball alive and well in Minnesota. Congratulations again to the Piers Laker on their victory. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I was proud of the community members that stood with us and partnered with me in creating the Fix Our Flooded Basements Act. Many people might not know this, but FEMA will cover helping get a new furnace, water heater, but they will not help in mitigating the toxins and the mold that can be created if they don't, again, get rid of the water and be able to clean out the basement. So in southeastern Michigan, we've seen that firsthand. We've had 2 national emergency declarations. Water damage, as you know, can lead to long-term issues regarding mold, toxins that impact the health of the family in the home. And again, too many of our families were denied FEMA assistance because the current rules do not cover repairs of most basements, where floods are often the most destructive. And again, it can lead to toxic mold if not mitigated. As flooding becomes more frequent due to the climate crisis, it's crucial that we take action to require FEMA, Mr. Speaker, to provide flood victims with the full resources they need to rebuild their lives. I still remember the senior in Inkster, Michigan. She was in her 70s, Mr. Speaker. And after the first declaration, her basement was flooded. She did not have the means nor the capabilities to be able to, again, get rid of the water that was in her basement. When I came by to visit her again, the water, because of the weather, froze in her basement. Years later, now she is dealing with toxic mold. So we need to have a legislative fix that is, again, helping mitigate those issues to make sure that our families are not living under unsafe conditions, exposed to serious health risks from mold, mildew, and moisture damage. Mr. Speaker, these are people recovering from a disaster. And to have FEMA say, no, we cannot help in this regards, even though they're exchanging the water heater, helping with the furnace, the fact that they will not mitigate the basement, again, leaves many of our families out. So a lot of my colleagues who have signed on to support this bill is the first time they realize that, again, FEMA did not do this. And maybe it was created because it was for the coastal communities, but we know communities like Michigan now are impacted in the Midwest. And so our fix, our Flooded Basements Act, will make sure the federal disaster assistance finally covers, again, all the mitigation needs for basement water damage.
Respect equal protection under the law, and there can be no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein received far greater protection than any of the victims that he abused for years. In 2008, Courtney Wild walked into my office because she was a part of a federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, where all she wanted was the government to talk to her. Little did she know the government had worked out a secret immunity deal for Jeffrey Epstein, and we had to file Jane Doe's versus United States of America to prove that Jeffrey Epstein worked out an illegal non-prosecution agreement with the government. That was 2008. It took us 10 years battling the government pro bono for the judge to ultimately determine that the victims' rights were violated. The government has mistreated them after Jeffrey Epstein mistreated them. We then filed civil lawsuits against Ghislaine Maxwell, which has resulted in her being in prison. Our civil lawsuits led to her prosecution. We filed lawsuits against Jeffrey Epstein, against his estate, and against 2 financial institutions, JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, that proved that they knowingly provided the financial infrastructure for a sex trafficking operation. Unfortunately, all of the documents and evidence that we have worked so hard to gather hide behind protective orders, confidentiality agreements, and bank secrecy laws. That is why this discharge petition is so important. While we have seen the documents, you haven't. And when you see the documents, you're going to be appalled. And the American people deserve to see everything. When you sign this discharge petition, it should mean nothing is off limits. That means the documents in the possession of the CIA should be made available. Those in the possession of the FBI going back decades should be made available. The SEC, financial records in the possession of FinCEN should be made available. Everybody knows that evil flourishes in the darkness. Corruption flourishes in secrecy. It is time right now to make a difference for the women that are behind me right now. They have been courageous and fought through this whole thing. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this one is an easy call. You're an American who cares about equal rights and equal protection under the law. If you care about these women, if you care about our country, and you care about this issue, this should pass with flying colors. I really appreciate everybody being here.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brittany Henderson, and I think in addition to thanking the wonderful congressmen and women who are here today, we need to thank the women, and not just the women who are going to speak, but the other women who are standing behind them, along with other lawyers, Sigrid McCauley, and people who have been fighting for a very, very long time for the world to give this kind of attention to an issue that it should have had forever. This administration has the opportunity to do what the past administrations did not do. This administration can either stand with the victims and stand for the victims, or it can continue to hurt the victims like has happened in the past. We aren't here just to ask for transparency, though. We're here too to ask for protection. The women here represent hundreds of other women who we have spoken to, many of whom were trafficked from other countries, from Eastern European countries where women don't have the rights that we have here. Women don't have the protections that we have here. And those women are terrified that their names will be released in these files. The government won't know that they're victims to redact and protect them. So we ask that you please, whoever is going to be in charge of redacting these files and in charge of this transparency, do it in a way that protects the women brave enough to be here, but also protects the women who are terrified that every day when they turn the TV on, something bad is going to happen to them in Ukraine, in Russia, in whatever country they live in, because no one is listening to them there. So thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and please protect these women while we seek transparency.
Good morning. My name is Anushka DeGiorgio, and I stand before you today as a survivor of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to thank Congressman Massey and Khanna for their role in putting together this very, very important bill. Every day of this journey toward healing has come at a profound cost to my mental health. But I am here. I chose to come because this bill really matters. I speak today not only in service of my own recovery from trauma inflicted by Maxwell and Epstein, but to honor the lives, the courage and sacrifices of Virginia Giuffre, Caroline Andriano, and others who could not continue. Their voices mattered. Their stories must not be forgotten. Accountability is what makes a society civilized. Equal opportunity and equal consequence for all. Consequences are not about punishment alone. They exist to deter future harm, to protect vulnerable, and to set a standard of justice. If Ghislaine Maxwell were pardoned, it would undermine all the sacrifices I made to testify and make mockery of mine and all survivors' suffering. That is why the Epstein Files Transparency Act is so essential. It requires the Department of Justice release all the records related to Epstein and Maxwell investigations, flight logs, immunity deals, internal communications, and even the records surrounding Epstein's detention and death. And crucially, it forbids withholding documents simply because of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. This is about ending secrecy wherever abuse of power takes root. But transparency alone is not enough. Survivors need protection, resources, and legal support. If this Congress is serious about justice, then let this moment also affirm your commitment to provide victims with the legal aid they need to confront abusers, to navigate complex systems, and to reclaim their power. Transparency must be matched by support, or else too many victims will remain silent out of fear and lack of access. The statistics demand action. Nearly 1 in 5 women in America will experience rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. Every 74 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, that person is a child. These are not numbers, they are people. They are your daughters, your sons, your constituents, your friends. Statistically, 1 in 5 of your families will face this nightmare. The days of sweeping this under the rug are over. We, the survivors, say no more. I want to help create a world where survivors of sexual abuse and abuse of power can come forward safely. And I ask Congress to join me in that effort, not only by passing this bill, but by ensuring that those who step forward have legal support to face their abusers and see justice done. When Judge Berman gave Epstein survivors the chance to finally speak, the world listened. After so many years, survivors were heard. That moment was historic, and so is this moment. For me, the turning point was when I had my daughter. And on the day she was born, I knew I had a responsibility to protect her and to protect all children. I have to use my voice, the voice that had been silenced by fear and shame for so many years. Make no mistake, my polished exterior is a shield hiding a wound that still bleeds. But through this wound, I have found purpose. To be part of lasting change in how we confront exploitation and abuse. And to be clear, the only motive for opposing this bill would be to conceal wrongdoing. You have a choice. Stand with the truth, or with the lies that have protected predators for decades. I am no longer weak. I am no longer powerless. And I'm no longer alone. And with your vote, neither will the next generation be. President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now and this country needs it now. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Annie Farmer, and I was 16 years old when I was flown to New Mexico to spend a weekend with Epstein and Maxwell. That same year, 1996, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to me there, along with reporting her own assault at their hands and their theft of sensitive photos of herself, of me, and our younger sister that she had taken for her work as a figurative painter. I am now 46 years old. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated, or why Epstein and his associates were allowed to harm hundreds, if not thousands, of other girls and young women. We have never been told whether those images were found when they discovered a large amount of child sexual abuse material on his property. As a psychologist, I understand that when the systems meant to protect us recreate the abuse cycle, the betrayal that occurs can be just as damaging as the original trauma. This happens when survivors of these crimes are not believed, when our well-being is not weighed as heavily as those who have more resources or more privilege, and when perpetrators of these crimes are given a platform rather than the survivors of them. For so many years, it felt like Epstein's criminal behavior was an open secret. Not only did many others participate in the abuse, it is clear that many were aware of his interest in girls and very young women and chose to look the other way because it benefited them to do so. They wanted access to his circle and his money. Their choice to align with his power left those of us who had been harmed by this man and his associates feeling very isolated. I could never have imagined being here today and this chorus of support that we have all received. I have been sent so many notes and messages from people with no direct connection to this case who've expressed their solidarity with us. And I believe that is because, in part, as Anushka explained so well, this is an extremely widespread issue of child sexual abuse, of sexual exploitation, of sexual violence. This affects almost every family in some way. From my conversations with women in these last few days and from all of the support that we've received, it's very clear to me that we are not going away, we are not going to be quiet, and we are not going to give up. And I ask the American public to stand with us and not give up. At a time with record high levels of distrust in our institutions and a perception that there are two Americas, one for those with power and privilege and one for everyone else, Passing this Epstein transparency bill is one important step that can be taken to prove to Americans that the government does not side with sexual perpetrators. A thorough public review of this information is an important step in preventing the type of systemic failures that have occurred in this case and harmed all of us. An important step towards healing for those involved. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for being here today on this very powerful and special day for all of us here. My name is Marina Lacerda. I was minor victim 1 in federal indictment of Jeffrey Epstein in New York in 2019. I was one of dozens of girls that I personally know who were forced into Jeffrey's mansion on 9 East 71 Street in New York City when we were just kids. Today is the first time that I ever speak publicly about what happened to me. I never thought that I would find myself here. The only reason that I am here is because it feels like the people who matter in this country finally care about what we have to say. As an immigrant from Brazil, I feel empowered knowing that the little girl struggling to get by at 14 and 15 years old finally has a voice. For the first time, I feel like I matter as an American. I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend of mine in the neighborhood told me that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. Jeffrey assistant Leslie Groff would call me and tell me that I needed to be at the house so often that I ended up dropping out of high school before 9th grade. And I never went back. From 14 to 17 years old, I went and worked for Jeffrey instead of receiving an education. Every day I hoped that he would offer me a real job as one of his assistants or something important. I would finally have made it big, as, like we say, the American dream. That day never came. I had no way out. I was, until he finally told me that I was too old. There are many pieces of my story that I can't remember, no matter how hard I try. The constant state of wonder causes me so much fear and so much confusion. My therapist says that my brain is just trying to protect itself, but it's so hard to begin to heal knowing that there are people out there who know more about my abuse than I do. The worst part is that the government is still in possession right now of the documents and information about that could help me remember and get over all of this maybe and help me heal. They have documents with my name on them that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's house and could help me put the pieces of my own life back together. But I don't have any of it. And I know the same is true for many of these women. We are here to support this bill today, not only for transparency, but for the American people. But if the government is going to convince the public, describing the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and others, the least that they can do is give me my documents that they have about me. The other survivors deserve the same respect from our government. While our identifying information must be redacted to the public, it is equally important to provide the victims themselves with unredacted information. I will never forget when the FBI agent showed up in my door in 2008. Jeffrey Epstein hired a lawyer to represent me, or more like to represent him, I'd like to say. I couldn't ask any questions, and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified. Until today, I think most of us are still terrified. I thought somebody was going to kill me. I thought something was going to happen to my sister or my mother. It went further out to even maybe thinking something would happen in Brazil with my family. And then one day, The lawyer said that everything was just gonna go away, like nothing happened. I didn't need to testify. When I asked him why, he gave no explanation. That was it. So why? Why was I never called to testify then? We could have saved so many women. We could have saved so many lives from being abused. Why did he get away with it in 2008? Why was he able to go on in the abuse with hundreds of girls after the Florida investigation? Why didn't they let me testify to help stop him? Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today and we are speaking and we are not going to stop speaking. Today, I stand here with the women who have really helped me to find the strength to come out and come forward to share my story for the very first time. Together, we are stronger than ever. While she may not be with us, Virginia Roberts, we will continue to use our voices to strengthen yours always. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Courtney Wild. I just wanted to take a second and just have a moment of silence for all the women survivors that aren't here with us today, that passed away due to anxiety, depression, trying to keep up with this case. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. My name is Courtney Wild. I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by a 13-year-old friend of mine. The details of the abuse that he inflicted on me for years is not important today. In 2028, I was cooperating with the federal government in the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. They sent me a letter telling me to be patient because this was going to be a lengthy investigation, but at the same time, they refused to talk to me and tell me what was going on. So I hired an attorney, Brad Edwards, because I was hopeful to get some answers. When I walked into his office at 19 years old, Brad sued the government for refusing to tell me what was going on under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The only reason anyone ever found out that the government had already given Jeffrey Epstein immunity through the non-prosecution agreement was because our lawsuit forced the government to tell us. Otherwise, nobody would even know that today. Sometimes it's hard to believe that I had to sue the United States just to learn that my abuser was given immunity. I started as Jane Doe, but I decided I was proud enough to take on our country, and I was on the right side of history. We fought the government for 10 years to prove that the government violated our rights as crime victims and the crime victims' rights in order to protect a pedophile. We had to win the 11th Circuit Court Appeals to force the government to turn over thousands of pages of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and the government. Those emails provided the proof that the government worked very hard with Jeffrey Epstein to violate our rights. Why? Why did the government work so hard to protect Jeffrey and not so hard to protect me and my other innocent friends? Why was Jeffrey so important to the government and why was I so insignificant? Why did nobody but our lawyers care before now? It seems people have only started to care because of Twitter and politics. But I would like to say this has nothing to do with politics. This is not a blue thing or a red thing. This is an everyone thing. We can all agree on this. The injustice that has happened here, multiple, over and over. Everybody that talks about this just seems to make it worse. We need transparency. It's time for us to see beyond the curtain. Why was Jeffrey Epstein so protected? Who is still being protected? And who protected them all so the world can understand how Jeffrey was able to abuse so many of us for so long. I was lucky to have Brad Edwards, Brittany Henderson, and Paul Cassell take on my case pro bono and fight fearlessly over 20 years' time. I would like to thank them, and I'd also like to ask the Trump administration to please sign off on the Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act, the Courtney Wild Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act that's we're trying to get passed here so we can close the loopholes in the CVRA case that Epstein's attorney used to their benefit to get away with this. Thank you so much.
Good morning. First and foremost, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Brad and Brittany Edwards, Congressman Massey and Kana, and above all, the brave survivors who have entrusted us with the privilege of speaking today on behalf of Virginia Roberts Giuffre as her family. We are here today because we support H.Res.581, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, in its entirety. But as much as this bill is about shining a light on truth, it's not just about the bill. This is about justice. This is about survivors. This is about justice against the rich and powerful who have stolen something from these women and many children at the time, their freedom. The freedom to live their life without mental and physical scars that have been inflicted upon them by those who thought they were untouchable. The same freedom that these monsters took from these survivors, they should never be afforded. They should never be allowed to continue their lives with impunity. Let's be clear, this is not a political issue. This is not about left or right. This is about humanity. This is about doing what's right. And this is about ensuring that the future we leave behind isn't one where the powerful can hide behind their wealth, their influence, and their money to evade justice. Our plea to you, whether you're a dad, a mom, a brother, or a sister, look your young ones in the face, look them in the eye, and tell them you didn't stand against the very people who raped, molested, and preyed upon children and young women. Tell them you were willing to negotiate a deal. Money should never be what makes something right or wrong. If you vote no, your stance will be clear. You will be choosing to stand on the side of the rich and powerful, allowing money to buy your way out of the consequence. But here's my one ask. Look these survivors in the eye and tell them why. Then, look the people of the United States in the eye and tell them why. And then, when you're alone, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. Virginia said it best, and I quote, "I have physical and mental scars that will never heal. I have memories that will never go away. They say time can heal, but this won't. Not until the justice system makes an example out of these people with so-called privileges. I just call it money. The only time I can begin to heal is when their freedom is taken from them, just like they did to me and literally thousands of other victims. The survivors of this horrific abuse are watching. The American people are watching. And history is watching. Which side will you be on?" Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jenna Lisa Jones, and I was only 14 years old when my friend brought me over to Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach in 2003. I had a terrible home life, but I was such an innocent kid then. I always did my best in school, and I had such a positive outlook on life. Until that day that I met Jeffrey, I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed me if I told them. I want to thank Congressman Rowe and Congressman Thomas Massey for
Having me here today, it was really hard for me to find my voice and to become strong enough to speak about my abuse. I didn't come forward until 2019, and even then it was like I was afraid of a ghost. I know that I was just a little kid, but sometimes I still feel like it is my fault that this happened. Being given the opportunity to speak at the United States Capitol building about something that is so important, not just to me and the women before you, but to the entire country. Together, we can finally make a change. And that is thanks to the people like these two congressmen and their teams who actually care about the victims. If you are a member of Congress and you are listening to all of us speak here today, please really listen to us. Please vote for this bill to be passed. Please recognize how important it is for transparency relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, this does not matter. This is not about sides. You are an American and you are a person who has chosen to serve in an elected position to stand up for those you represent who cannot always stand up for themselves. We are those people. We are the Americans that you promised to protect. And we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Haley Robson. I was a 16-year-old high school student athlete who made good grades and had high aspirations for college when I was recruited and asked by a classmate of mine alongside with a 20-year-old male if I wanted to give an old rich guy a massage. But what high school girl would not want to do that? That day changed my life forever. And when I got into the massage room, Jeffrey Epstein undressed and asked me to do things to him. My eyes welled up with tears, and I have never been more scared in my life. When it was over, he paid me $200 and requested in exchange that I bring a girl each time to make another $200. I told him I did not want to do that, and then he gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage, and I will give you $200 per girl for each time she comes. I felt and hoped to never hear from him again, but he called me every day. He was so wealthy and powerful, and he would not let me go. I felt I had no choice. If I disobeyed him, I knew something bad would happen. So knowing I did not want to be sexually abused, I started to bring him other girls from my high school, and he paid me $200 for bringing them. I just hoped each time it would be the last time. One day, the stepmom of one of the girls brought him and called the police on Jeffrey Epstein. The police then called me in for questioning. I had told them the truth despite the fact that I was a teenager and a minor, and I was able to tell the police the names of all the other victims. The police treated me like a criminal. I had, by this time, had turned 18. I had been with Jeffrey since I was 16 and for 2 years. So they had told me So they told me I was going to be arrested. My name was then distributed to the press as a co-conspirator of my abuser, who I detested. My entire world was crashing in around me, and I started being threatened and bullied, till this day still receiving death threats. I was singled out and for many years had to suffer a smear campaign of lies about me because of the way that I was portrayed by the press. The press made me out to be a predator when I was just a 16-year-old little girl who was sexually abused by a powerful man and an evil man. For years, I had no friends. My boyfriend was murdered, and there was nowhere to turn. The government, after investigating more, learned that I was true a victim, but the damage was done and it was too late. There was no way to undo the harm the press had caused me. In 2019, I met Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson. They changed my life and they believed in me and have helped me to finally heal. Healing is a process, and I may never get there. But the passage of this bill requiring the government to produce all the evidence that it has gathered on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is a huge component of healing for me and for the many other women who have suffered for so long. For many reasons. First, we and the rest of the world need answers. Why was he so protected? And why didn't anyone ever care to stop him? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that if he is spending thousands of dollars a day paying high school girls he abuses and had a lot of access to cash. I learned through my attorneys in the JP Morgan class action case that there were years when his staff withdrew over $1 million in cash a year. Was that not a big enough red flag? There were wire transfers to other victims, and the government did not protect us. The banks did not protect us. So lift the curtain on these files and be transparent. Every single time a new conspiracy gets circulated in the media, whether he is still alive, what powerful person had him murdered, who was on the Epstein client list, and there are names going around on TikTok and Instagram, we, the survivors, are suffering severely. We take our kids to school and everyone is talking about it. We can't read the news or do anything without hearing crazy stories that are only able to live on because the government continues to hide the evidence and the truth. So people just make up stories. Those stories hurt. They hurt real people who have already been hurt. And we have lost so many Epstein victims to suicide, and maintaining the real truth in secrecy only allows for conspiracy theorists to tell lies that drives up our anxiety and fears and will continue to lead to more pain, more suffering, and honestly, more deaths of innocent victims. It's time you do what is right by us. Unseal all the documents. We are requesting transparency, and I am requesting every congressman and woman that goes against this bill be outed. I want to know. Thank you.
Tear into the press and tear into Congress.
Hi there, my name is Lisa Phillips, and I'm the host of a award-nominated podcast called From Now On, a platform supporting survivors. I want to thank all of my survivor sisters who came before me today. I'll be very short. In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world. For years after, I tried to avoid Jeffrey, but he had introduced me to Katie Ford, the owner of the Ford Modeling Agency. Epstein's reach went to the very top of fashion, arts, and entertainment. This did not just happen to underage girls in Florida. In New York City, hundreds of young, ambitious women were abused by him. Epstein was not just a serial predator, he was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet, he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else is involved. Stay tuned for more details.
Hello, my name is Shantae Davies, and I'm here before you today as a survivor of decades of pain, trauma, and betrayal at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and the people who enabled them, and a government that for far too long refused to help. In 2002, I was living in California, a young woman with high aspirations of becoming an actress. I was already beginning to make a name for myself in the industry. A person I trusted, someone I thought was a friend, invited me to meet a powerful woman who could help advance my career. That woman happened to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I was asked to give her a massage, though I had almost no experience, and when I did, she praised me and promised introductions to someone enormously powerful, someone who could change the course of my life, and that man was Jeffrey Epstein. At first, I was an excited young woman on top of the world. Epstein flew me to his private island. He listened to my dreams, promised to help, but his promises came with a catch. The abuse began. He told me to keep it secret. He manipulated me with quid pro quo I did not consent to, but I felt I had no one to turn to. He was too powerful. I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would protect me? Epstein himself was the most powerful leader of our country. Epstein surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world. He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually. And while what I endured will haunt me forever, I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again. There are files, government files, that hold the truth about Epstein, who he knew, who owed him, who protected him, and why he was allowed to operate for so long without consequence. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable when so many others played a role? Why does the government hide this information from the public? This secrecy is not protection, it's complicity. And as long as the truth is buried, justice will remain out of reach. That is why this bill matters. Passing it will, bless you, ensure that the suffering of survivors is not in vain. Passing it will bring accountability, transparency, and prevention. It will help protect the next generation of predators who seek to place themselves above the law through wealth, influence, and connections. This is not just my story. It is about every survivor who carries invisible scars. It's about the weight we live with daily. It is about the families broken and the futures stolen. So I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth. We cannot heal without justice. We cannot protect the future if we refuse to confront the past. Thank you.
Let's just give a round of applause for all the courage and strength that the survivors have shown. We now will take a few questions. You can always get Congressman Massey, me, or Congresswoman Green in the hallways and other places. If you have questions for us, that's fine. But I wanted to see first if you have questions for the lawyers and the survivors, and Brad will facilitate any of the questions to the survivors. Yes?
Yeah, this question would be for the survivors, Mr. Edwards. The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the words that he used. Can we get your reactions to what you think when you hear him say that?
Oh, I'll answer that. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally to hear that?
Devastating.
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot. and it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not. Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Ms. Edwards, I wonder if any of the victims could respond to the news from recently about Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to a lower security prison in the aftermath of speaking to Todd White.
You want that one?
About her
Ghislaine
transfer to a...
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to speak to that. We were horrified to learn that she had been transferred to a prison camp. She is someone who was found guilty by a jury of sex trafficking. She not only, we often hear that she procured women for Jeffrey, which I think is a very sort of polite and minimizing term. She also participated in the abuse. She was a major architect of the scheme. And the fact that she has painted herself as a victim, I think is disgusting. And it was horrifying, I think, to us that we were not told about her prison transfer. We found out about it in the news.
Just
1 minute, I think Anushka maybe has something to say.
So, Anushka DiGiorgio, I testified alongside Annie at the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I was horrified when I found out not only had Ghislaine Maxwell been transferred to what's called a low security. It's really is like a holiday camp. And then afterwards, I got a notification from the Department of Justice telling me that this was going to happen, when it had already happened. This woman abused children. I was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell was present for some of my abuse at the hand of Jeffrey Epstein. She was present, she was complicit, she was enabling, and it is appalling and disgusting. And it's one of my worst nightmares that she not only be transferred, but at the possibility that's very much going around that she might be pardoned. This is not okay, guys. This is not okay.
And I just want to add that I think it sends a very dangerous message to our country, to the young people in our country, that someone that we all know is aware of these crimes could be given a pass.
And just for the last survivor who just spoke, the last survivor who just spoke, she said that Epstein would brag about her relationship with Donald Trump. Could she please elaborate about that?
Shante.
Get to the microphones.
Get close.
Yeah, I did say that. My first trip to the Palm Beach residence, I drove there from the airport with Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey and Ghislaine were always very boastful about their friends, their famous or powerful friends, and his biggest brag forever was that he was very good friends with Donald Trump. He had an 8x10 framed picture of him on his desk with the two of them. Like, they were very close.
Go ahead. What? One second.
For this client list that you ladies are putting together, you said it would be confidential, but will the public, could you clarify, will the public get to see that list?
So Lisa, what's your envision here?
Is it going to go to the public or just amongst the survivors?
No, we're reaching out to survivors that are scared.
So come on up.
We're reaching out to survivors that are scared to come forward and that also know who they were trafficked to. So that's the list that we're compiling. We're not quite sure, how we're going to release that, or even if we're going to. The Department of Justice needs to release the list.
Right,
yes.
For folks at home, they might be confused. Survivors know the names. You've seen these powerful people. Why can't you say the names? Could you just explain for folks?
Why do we have to say the names when the government knows the names? And we're also scared to do so. Look what's happened to so many of the survivors that have revealed names.
Yeah, I find it question about the bill.
I think it's also worth saying that having represented, I think, between our firm and Boyce Schiller, hundreds of victims, and we've talked to them about the various people that they were farmed out to. So we've created somewhat of a list. Most of these individuals, the victims, are very scared to say these names because they could get sued, they're going to get attacked, and nobody protected them the first time. And that was against one person. So is there a list? There is a list, but just to dispel kind of the common theme here, every one of these women was abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and his scheme was to personally abuse women. When they reached a certain age, he did farm a section of them, some of them, out to some of his friends. That doesn't mean all of his friends. With that said, I'm more than happy to assist in helping create the list behind the scenes and see what we do with it.
But if someone's interested,
Go ahead.
Hold on. I think if someone's interested in prosecuting, they may have something different to say about sharing a list. But they're not sharing a list for nothing to happen, and that's the experience that they've had for all of these years.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you all. We're waiting to see the fate of this discharge petition right now as we're here. The speaker and others have said that the people he met with yesterday had concerns about your names being released if this bill were passed. And some people I talked to today are not signing the discharge petition because they say you don't want them to. Can you clarify if that is accurate?
Do any of the survivors here not want the bill to pass?
First of all, our legislation, Ro Khanna and I went through this, we talked about this, and we were very careful to make sure that there is an exception so that personally identifiable information, not just their names, but anything they could be identified by, would not be disclosed.
And can you speak to that as survivors yourself?
I think all of them are on the same page. That they want everything released.
Want the bill to pass.
Yes, they unequivocally redact personally identifying information and release everything else.
Mr. Edwards.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards, thank you.
I know it's your first time speaking.
Uh-oh.
I'll go to Marina if we can.
Yeah, sure.
Marina, you have stayed silent for so many years. Today, this is the first time, if we understand correctly, you have never before gone public with your story and to share this. Can you help us understand why today, why now, and why here?
Well, it is not okay for us to be silenced, and it's not okay for Jeffrey Epstein and everybody else to be put on a pedestal. I think everybody needs to hear from us because we know what went on, right? And there is not only me who's been silenced, there are hundreds of women that are silenced. My hope is to stop this abuse for the future, right? For people that are coming up, for women. My daughter, for example, these women have daughters. They most definitely don't want that anymore. And I think mainly this is therapy for all of us too. You know, we want to be heard. Nobody also has never asked me to speak. That's also another thing. So I can say for all of us here, we are here. We want this bill to pass. It is very important. Okay, and we need transparency. We are tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it. We are done. We're not going to be silenced, and I hope that my voice will bring other survivors and other victims to come along and speak up so that we can be more of a stronger voice and louder.
And so what is your message to President Trump on this?
Listen, I don't want to send a direct message to him. I'm already scared enough. Yeah. Just pass the vote, listen to us. This is not a hoax. Like, it's not going to go away. And like I said on my speech earlier, we're not going to be silenced anymore. We will be speaking moving forward wherever we need to be. We will be, and we need to pass this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Jordan Conrad from Gateway Pundit. For years we've heard that there's an Epstein client list or some kind of list. And now we hear from DOJ that there's no list. Question for all the victims. What do you guys think? I know you're working on your own list, but do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein had a list?
Yeah. So there's not a list. Yeah. So here's what it was. Just like you heard everybody today, Jeffrey Epstein created through an organization that of enablers, of people that were on his payroll. It was a complicated scheme where others should still be investigated because they helped to enable him and operate this scheme. Without those people, he could not have done this. But the purpose was for him to personally abuse people. With that being said, certain of his friends, he farmed out certain of the women that he was exploiting too. But that wasn't the primary purpose of that scheme, and I don't think he wrote the names of those people down. There's not a list of, hey, here's all of the people that I sent females to. That's just not how that organization works.
Mr. Edwards,
Agreed?
Is there any evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with or tied to the CIA or a foreign intelligence operation?
I think that the safest thing for me to say is all files should come out, whether it is for this with the CIA, FinCEN, SEC, FBI. I'm not just making these up haphazardly. I'm giving you a roadmap where to look.
So if this bill
Go ahead. I'll go first and then I'll let them. They're much more important than me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that. He didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated. Go ahead.
People who are currently serving in government, who are named, who you know of, are in these files, who you had relations with, anything of that sort, who Jeffrey Epstein connected you with? Are you willing to say yes or no?
I don't think I can answer that. Sorry.
I think she's referring to my speech.
Hi, Anushka DeGiorgio. I have been threatened. I was threatened by phone. My daughter was threatened when I was volunteering to participate in, by means of being a witness in a civil lawsuit that Virginia Giuffre was bringing against Ghislaine Maxwell. I have been followed. I have been stalked. I have been followed not only by journalists, but by people who do not get out of the car and do not try and talk to me and just drive behind me as I drive my daughter to school. So the fear is very real for us. I have also been in multiple situations with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where they have been direct and indirect about implying and saying that if I was to talk, if I was to bring any kind of trouble, then there would be severe consequence, including death.
And just to add to that, Maxwell also threatened my sister Maria Farmer. When the FBI did nothing about her initial report, she reported individually at that time, and then in 2002 we spoke to a reporter at Vanity Fair telling our stories, fearful that perhaps other people were being harmed. We believed that was going to make a difference. We believed that would be put in print, and that story was crushed, and it was because of their power. And the message that we got from that was direct threats from Maxwell to my sister about her well-being and her safety and that of our family. So I think many people have similar stories of threats. That has been a very real part of this case.
Go ahead, over here. Do you want to address that?
I just want to say one thing that's very clear. When people say, please share names, there are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him, and he's been seen as a victim when clearly I believe there's more to it.
Right here, please.
But, yep.
Yeah, so you represented Virginia Roberts for many years. She eventually had to recant the allegations that she made against Alan Dershowitz. She alleged that
we're not talking. All right, next question.
Next question.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Why is it that she should be?
Yeah, no, we're not answering your question. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
How did the victims feel about the interview that was given to Ghislaine Maxwell?
There's a woman trying to say something.
That's better. Okay, ma'am, I think that you had a question.
When you talked in the past on MSNBC, about the existence of the Epstein birthday book, have you yourself, in the course of litigation, seen it?
I don't know that we're able to reveal what we've seen and what we have not seen by way of protective order, but my point being in that circumstance was, if anybody wants answers, there's an easy place to get it. I told you where to get it. I said the estate of Jeffrey Epstein has it. Serve a subpoena on them. They'll turn it over. And if we had served a subpoena on them in the past, they would have turned it over and we would have seen it, which I don't usually miss subpoenas like that. So there we go.
Mr. Edwards, can you elaborate
Go ahead.
on the? Just say one thing on that. You know, to your question about the allegations, there's a simple answer. Release the files. Let the American public decide. Instead of harassing, I gave you your say. Look.
You're hired by Dershowitz.
But, you know, you've been heard. And even Alan Dershowitz says to release the files. Release the files. That is the answer, and that's what we're here for. That is the.
You gotta go. You gotta go.
Goodbye.
Can you elaborate on the?
Sorry. Yeah.
You said that Donald Trump gave you help in 2009. Can you elaborate on your interactions with Donald Trump back in 2009? And for any of the victims, they didn't ever see the president, well then not the president yet, but they didn't ever see Trump with Epstein in any way.
I don't know who's. I don't think that we can answer that question. Did anybody see Trump with Epstein back then? This is really not a political thing. We want the passage of the bill, and this is not to call out President Trump. My point was that he was friendly back then, did not think that it was a hoax, and was trying to help. And now it seems like all of a sudden somebody's in his ear and he's not. So I'm hoping he'll come back to where he was back in 2009, be on the side of the victims and stand with us.
On the passage of the bill,
go ahead. Do you want to answer it? Teresa will step up.
I would, Teresa J. Home. Happy to speak on that, because what I will say is she got this airtime and platform. Her voice was elevated way before our voices were elevated here today. And that same calm, manipulative voice that she had, so polite there that day with Todd Blanche, was the same polite, coercive, manipulative voice that I heard as she was grooming me to then send me off to the home of Jeffrey Epstein, where he would assault me. So that's what she was doing for hours, speaking with me, building relationship with me, building trust with me, allowing me to believe that I was going to get this job, a dream job that I had been recruited from my college, flown across the country from Los Angeles to New York City to interview, so I thought. So her voice that day was the same voice that sent me off to a monster. So nothing can be believed from what she says, because she's been charged with perjury. I myself could sit there and listen, and as I did, I sat there and listened to this woman's voice lie. And there was no pushback from Todd Blanche, because does he even have the facts to be able to push back on her? We could sit there and push back. Why didn't we get to attend that? Why weren't we there that day? Or why wasn't even one of us consulted prior to that day in that meeting? And why on earth has she been moved from Florida to her, it basically is prison spa. I mean, let's be real. None of us were consulted. I found out, just like everyone here found out, through the media, through all of you. We found out about Ghislaine's transfer. So I'm very angry to sit there and listen. The feelings that come up listening to this woman's voice is repulsive. Yes, I would say it's triggering. We all work very hard on healing, and it still gets to us after 2 decades. That's a very long answer, but it's repulsive to sit there and listen to her voice in her interview.
Can we take two more questions? One over here. I think that there's nobody that's immune from us going after them if there's a legitimate action to take. So to the extent that that evidence exists, then show it to us and we'll help in every way we can. We stand with the victims. Okay. One more.
Can the survivors speak to, speaking of being threatened and being afraid to come forward with a story, to the case of Katie Johnson, who alleged that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't think we can talk about. I don't think we can talk about that case. I do think it's worth saying, though, despite the comments that he made, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is an American hero. She is somebody. She is somebody without whom we would not be able to have this voice. She was the one who had courage to name names, speak out against people, and she was standing up against everybody at one time with an enormous amount of pressure.
And most of these women are here because of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. So,
all right, last one.
Clearly not us.
I don't think that anybody knows, but I can tell you that in the oversight committee meeting yesterday, they indicated that they were all for transparency, releasing the files, and asked us to hold them accountable. Isn't that right?
Yes.
They said hold them accountable, so we intend to hold them accountable.
That's up to them.
We're going to show them where to go with it, and as long as they're doing their job, they should. I'm going to turn it back over to Ro Khanna. Thank you.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. I think the people back who are testifying here today or speaking out today, they are American heroes. Let's give them another round of applause. And you say, look, Thomas, Marjorie, and I, we're huge believers in the First Amendment, and we believe in free speech, and we take abuse all the time. But you see, you see why it's so hard to do what they have done, because they come forward and you subject yourself to national scrutiny and national questioning. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how appreciative I am and how proud I am of what you've done today. You've made a big difference. Before I bring on Marjorie and then Thomas will have the last word, I want to summarize 3 basic things that I heard from the survivors. First, they want to know why our government covered up for someone rich and powerful. Why is it that we have 2 Americas? People say, why do you need to release the Epstein files if Epstein is dead and Maxwell is in jail? Because we don't know who all was involved in the cover-up. Why are there rich and powerful people who didn't have justice? They want to know that. Second, many said it's important for their own closure. They don't know their own abuse. They want to understand what's in these files for themselves. And third, we heard that there are many others who obviously were involved. And they want to know, and the American people deserve to know what was there in those files. I actually think they're helping us come together as a country. I've never done a press conference with Marjorie Taylor Greene before. I've done some with Tubbs, but look, this country is divided, it's exhausted. This is one thing that we can come together on. And I was very clear with Thomas. This is not against President Trump. I would like nothing more than a Truth Social post for him after this press conference saying, just release the files. Be with Massie Khanna. This is about something much deeper. It is about bringing this country together to stand for America's kids, to restore trust, and to move this country forward. So thank you to the survivors for helping us do that. Now I want to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you.
Thank you. For everyone watching at home, I think it's important to put yourself in these women's shoes.
is you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped and being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers and extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with those people. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now, another thing, this is not about politics, and this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Roe just said, there's become two Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster. It shouldn't exist anymore, and people are sick of it. So let's recognize the fact that the administration before and the one before it and the one before it and the one before it and before it never did anything about this. So this isn't one political party or the other. It's a culmination of everyone worked together to silence these women and protect Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal. And this is not just rich, powerful people. Think his drivers, his maids, his chefs, all the people, people that worked in his home, security guards. I heard one story from a young woman that was being raped by Jeffrey Epstein when he was out on work release while he was serving time in prison and had an ankle monitor on his leg. Guess what? There was a police officer outside that door. So this list of names is quite a list of names, and it doesn't extend just in the rich, powerful circles. It extends down to the very bottom where people were paid. And again, I will say this, there's victims suffering today in similar circumstances, and they're terrified to name the names of the people that are currently abusing them. And so with these brave, courageous women fighting this fight, this is a fight for women and children and any person that is facing sexual abuse and rape and captivity and human trafficking right now. And so here's what I ask you in the press. Don't go for salacious headlines. Go for the truth and defend these women and help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines for doing the right thing and trying to do it together. And thank you, Roe, and thank you, Thomas. And now I recognize Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
Well, there's three branches of government, and we're supposed to keep each other accountable. And that's what we're doing here today in the People's House. We're standing in front of the People's House with real people, not a hoax. And they've told their story. We wanted to give them a platform to speak, and they've had it. They stepped up, and they were brave. But I also today hope that they would persuade my colleagues to join this effort. But I found out something today that happened that I wasn't expecting. They persuaded me to fight even harder. I'm not going to give up. And I want to end with this call to action. First, a call to action to my colleagues who, just an hour before this press conference, were prepared. They were given a fig leaf. We'll put a resolution on the floor so that you can say that you voted to protect the survivors. Their resolution doesn't really do anything. And that's the oldest trick in the swamp. When you want to kill the momentum, when you want to kill initiative, you introduce a placebo, a different bill that does nothing, and then try to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. That's not going to happen this time. We demand real accountability. I encourage my colleagues, please, there's over 200 Republicans who have not signed this discharge petition. We only need 2 of them to sign it, and every Democrat will sign it, and that will get us the number we need to force this vote, to pass a law, not a polite request to the DOJ to police themselves. No, we need legally binding legislation to force that to happen. And my main call to action is to the people watching these live feeds that are going through these cameras right now. Congressmen, listen to you. Light up their phones. Burn down the phone lines here in Washington, D.C. Ask them the questions that these survivors wanted you to ask them. Why won't you be for transparency? Don't accept their answer that the bill has a flaw or that the survivors don't want it. We know that's not true. They wouldn't be fighting it so hard in this town if it wasn't the real bill. So with that, please call your congressman. Tell him or her to get on this bill and to stand up for these survivors. Thank you and God bless. That's the end.
Thank you guys very much. This is unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Everything coming out of Venezuela, they said, and we said, we're not going to put up with it anymore. So Venezuela has been one of the worst actors in the whole group, and we have a group of pretty bad actors.
Are you wanting to force Maduro on Trump?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. At the end of this month, the government or the Congress has to pass a budget. Do you think we can avoid a government shutdown?
Yeah, I do. I think the Republicans will vote for an extension. We won't have any Democrat votes. We could give the greatest budget ever. Tax cut of 50%, everybody taken care of, perfect for women, perfect for men, perfect for minorities, perfect for everything, and we wouldn't get one vote for the Democrats because they've lost their mind. They are so deranged. They have Trump derangement syndrome, and I don't want to burn the Republican Party with it, but they really are. They've become almost sick. They actually think there is a disease. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. They've got it. No matter what we did, no matter how good, you could give them everything that they've ever dreamed of, and you wouldn't get one vote. These are sick people, and I think we're going to have a tremendous midterm. We just approved the largest tax decrease in the history of our country. We have things, if you think of it, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, no tax on overtime, deductions when you buy a car and you borrow money to buy a car. First time they've ever seen anything like this. Middle-income people get deductions. You get a deduction when you buy a car. Nobody's ever seen. And by the way, they're selling cars like crazy. Cars are pouring back because of the fact that we have tariffs. Cars are pouring back into our car plants are pouring back into our nation. They're coming from all over the world. They're coming back. You know, we lost about 54% of automobile manufacturing over a 30-year period, 35-year period. They're all coming back. I think they're coming back higher than ever before. We have AI going up. What we've done is amazing, and what we've passed is amazing. But the Democrats, I don't believe, will get one vote. It's very anti-crime. We want anti-crime. They're in favor of crime. We're against crime. You know, they gave us things like men playing in women's sports, open borders for everybody, transgender for everybody. I mean, they wanted transgender for all of the crazy things that they were saying. And, you know, people would say they're 80-20 issues. I say they were 97-3. I always say 97-3, and nobody knows who the three are. This is the best issue of all. They are against preventing crime. They are fighting us. I want to go into Chicago, and I have this incompetent governor that doesn't want us. Do you know that this weekend 72 people were shot in Chicago? I'm embarrassed to say it in front of the president of Poland. 11 people were killed. 72 people were shot. Last week, 7 people were killed in Chicago, a place which is probably your #1 place. I hate to say it.
Yeah, local polls in Chicago.
And we got to keep it safe. but 7 people were killed. The week before that, 5 people were killed and 21 people were shot. This is in 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, they lost almost 35 people were killed. It could have been stopped. If you look at Washington, D.C., 3 weeks ago, it was the same or worse. And now it's considered a totally safe zone. Restaurants are open. They're bustling. Restaurants, you have to see, restaurants were dying. Nobody wanted to go out. They didn't want to be attacked. They didn't want to be mugged. They didn't want to be attacked even in the restaurant. And you take a look at what's happened. Friends of mine that haven't gone to a restaurant in 4 years, one of them went out 5 times in the last 2 weeks to a restaurant with his family. They feel totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a totally safe city. You're not reporting any crime because there is none. They said crime is down 87%, and I said, no, it's not. It's down 100%. We have a great thing going. I could do that with Chicago. We could do that with New York. We could do it with Los Angeles. So we're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago, or do we go to a place like New Orleans, where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in and straighten out a very nice section of this country that's become quite tough, quite bad. So we're going to be going to maybe Louisiana, and you have New Orleans, which has a crime problem. We'll straighten that out in about 2 weeks. It'll take us 2 weeks, easier than D.C. But we could straighten out Chicago. All they have to do is ask us. To go into Chicago, if we don't have the support of some of these politicians, but I'll tell you who is supporting us, the people of Chicago. And I sort of want them to let it be known. They have incompetent people. A guy like Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of a state that if we didn't go into Los Angeles with our soldiers, with our National Guard, you wouldn't even be having the Olympics there. They were going to take it. And remember this, your top law enforcement officer in Los Angeles said, there's no way we could have done this without President Trump coming in with the troops. We saved Los Angeles and we saved the Olympics. Thank you very much.
Question for President Trump. I got you, sir. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Mr. President, in regards to Gavin Newsom, would you be open to a congressional investigation in regards to the specific Palisades fire where it killed 12 seniors, to see whether there's any negligence on Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass in regards to those deaths?
Well, I'll tell you, there's negligence on not getting people permits. That is negligent. We got all of the federal permits. Lee Zeldin, the federal permits are much more difficult. They were all gotten within 30 days. People could go build their houses. It's going to be years before they are allowed to build their house. And Karen Bass is grossly incompetent. And Newsom, this is a very incompetent guy. I watched him with the hands. I'm saying, what's going on with the hands? There's something wrong with him. You watch him. There's something wrong with this guy. But more importantly, he didn't allow the water to come from the Pacific Northwest. You know, they have tremendous amounts of water in California. People don't know. They send the water out to the Pacific Ocean. So I demanded it be open. If that were open during the fire, before the fire, you wouldn't have had the fire because all the sprinklers would have worked in the houses. They had no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants. You wouldn't have had the fires. It would have been put out after one house, 2 houses. But he stopped the water from coming in. And I had to send in the military to have that water opened after the fires. And now they have water, but he should have more because they've restricted, they still restricted. There's something wrong with these people. There's something really wrong. As to investigation, I view it as a gross incompetence. I view it as an ideology that's wrong. It's a radical left ideology. And if I didn't win this election, I think our country would be destroyed. I don't believe you'd be here right now, and our country would be destroyed. Yeah.
Mr. President Trump, thank you, sir. What's the most important branches of interest between Poland and U.S., in your opinion?
Well, it's just the relationship we have. I think there's a great trust and a great, more than most countries, more than almost any countries. We have some in a category that's very special, and Poland is in that category. We have a very special relationship. It's like the question about the soldiers that was asked. We never even thought in terms of removing soldiers from Poland. We do think about it with regard to other countries, but we would never know. We're with Poland all the way, and we will help Poland protect itself. Okay?
President, I would like to add something. Yeah, of course, security is most important also for our relation. And I'm a historian, as you know, maybe, Mr. President.
Sure.
I'm a historian, and this is the first time in Polish history, in 20th century and the 21st century, that the Poles are happy that we have foreign soldiers in Poland. So the American soldiers are the part of our society. Nowadays we have almost 10,000 soldiers, and this is the signal to the whole world and also to the Russian Federation that we are together. But we are not like the Poland free riders in Europe and in NATO. Mr. President Trump knows it, because our GDP for military service achieved 4.7. So we are probably the one NATO nation which is on this level, and we will not stop. Me, as the President of Poland, we are going to achieve 5% of GDP for military service, but with American soldiers on Polish soil, we solidified and we are secure.
Mr. President, are you just about that? You know, Poland was one of two nations that paid more than they were supposed to with NATO. I don't know if anyone knows that, but there were two nations, and Poland paid more than they were supposed to. They thought it was low. And by the way, since then, at my request, they've raised it from 2% to 5%. But Poland was one of two nations that paid more than they were supposed to, which was a very nice thing. Yeah.
What's your message for President that you were not invited to the parade in Beijing?
Never even thought about it until just now.
President Nawrocki, what's your message for President?
Never even thought. It wouldn't have been my place to be there.
President Nawrocki, what's your message for
tariffs? Will you visit a restaurant in D.C.? You haven't gone to.
I might. Sure.
You haven't gone to one in either of your terms that wasn't in your because I and many other.
Do you want me to prove you wrong? Do you want me to prove you wrong?
Yes, please.
But I will. I think it's something we could consider doing. Love to do it. I love the White House food, but after a while, I could see going to a nice restaurant. It's safe. If you would have said, like the Governor Moore wanted me to go and walk through Baltimore with him, and I said, you know, I think I'm a brave guy, but there's no reason to be stupid. They have crime that's at levels that nobody's ever seen before in Baltimore. They've done a terrible job. We'd go into Baltimore, straighten it out very quickly, too. You know why? They respect our soldiers. You see our soldiers. They respect our soldiers. We'd go there, too. But we're going to have people asking us to go. They're going to want to, and I think the people of those places are, the politicians are not in tune with the people. The people in Chicago, the people in Baltimore, the people in all of the places we talk about, they want to see us there. And I think we're pretty much waiting till we get asked and properly. We're doing them a big service. Yeah, please.
You talked about how historic these tariffs have been, bringing in revenue, additional revenue for our country. You've also mentioned before they could possibly replace federal income tax.
Possible.
Do you think that's
someday it's possible? It used to be. So if you go back to 1913 is when they ended tariffs. We were the richest ever from 1850. It was all tariffs. We didn't have income taxes. From 1850 to 1913. In the 1887s, about 1887, they had the Great National Tariff Act. And it was a group of people that got together because our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. We had so much money, they didn't know what to do. It was a group of very prominent people that were set up to hand out money to everybody because we were the richest we ever were. Proportionately, we were in 1887, around that time, even in 1913. We ended them in 1913. How did that work out? And then we went to the income tax system, and then we had the Depression. And by the way, a lot of people try and say that, oh, tariffs with the Depression. No, they ended in 1913, and then we went to income tax, and then in 1929 you had the Depression. They did try and bring it back in 1931-32, but the Depression had long started, and this poor, beautiful nation was gone. It was gone. We suffered for 25 years. It took 25, 30 years to really recover from the Depression. And we don't ever want to see that happen again. The tariffs are vital to the success of this country. When I say I ended 7 wars, at least half of those wars were ended because of the power of tariffs. I was able to say, well, we're not doing any business with you, or if you're going to war, we're putting a big tariff on you. And all of a sudden they announced that the war was settled. I settled 7 different wars, one going 31 years, look at the Congo and Rwanda, look at that, 31 years, 10 million people dead, I got it settled. And a little bit of that one, less than in some cases, had to do with trade and had to do with tariffs. So, tariffs are vital to our country. And just so you know, other countries use them on us, but I just use them a lot better. We're in a much better position. We have trillions of dollars coming into our country. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be a very poor nation, and we would be taken advantage of by every other nation in the world, friend and foe. We're not going to let that happen. And we have a very, very big case in the Supreme Court. I can only say this. Our country has a chance to be unbelievably rich again, but it can also be unbelievably poor again. If we don't win that case, our country is going to suffer so greatly, so greatly. But I think we're going to have a big victory. Even if you look at the people that brought the case, they're foreign-oriented. They're foreign. Countries have taken advantage of the United States for so many years. And I started with China. Last term, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs from China. But when COVID came, the last thing I was going to do is we're going to tariff France and Italy and, others, Spain, when they were doing so badly. But now we made a deal with the European Union where they're paying us almost $1 trillion, and they're happy to do it. You know what? They're happy. It's done. These deals are all done. I guess we'd have to unwind them. We've done deals with Japan, with South Korea. We've done deals with many countries and others to come. And if we didn't have the power, prestige, and dignity of tariffs, and I used them wisely, and people respect America again, and we've become a rich country again. The money coming in is incredible. And again, they use them on us. If we didn't have them, they would use them on us, and we would have no way to fight them. We would be a third world nation. So I think it's one of the most important cases I've ever seen go before the Supreme Court of the U.S.
2 weeks ago, you gave Vladimir Putin a 2-week deadline to agree to talks with Zelensky. That deadline is now nearly approached. Can you give us any indication when you will make a decision?
Well, I'm having a conversation with him very shortly, and I'll know pretty much what we're going to be doing. We've taken very strong action, as you know. And in other ways, we've taken very strong action. But I'll be speaking to him over the next few days, and we're going to see. I'm going to know exactly what's happening.
Mr. President,
I'm not happy with all the people. You got 7,819 people killed last week. Russian soldiers and Ukraine soldiers, right? Not American soldiers, not soldiers from Poland, but they're human beings. They're souls. They have parents. They wave goodbye to their parents, and their parents never see them again. That's the end of them. Over a stupid war, and I want to see it stopped. Now, we have stopped the money. We send weapons to NATO. They pay full price. We don't, Biden spent $350 billion so stupidly. And it was one of the reasons that this whole thing happened. A big reason this war happened was sitting right in these chairs, this one in particular. So I think we're going to have a good solution, but they're losing soldiers at levels that nobody has seen since the Second World War. This is the worst conflict, and it's just going on and on. It's one's defense, one's offense. The offense moves a little bit, just a little bit. You take a look. They move inches. They're dropping bombs and killing everybody. The whole thing is not since the Second World War has there been anything even close to this. And they're not soldiers from my country. This is my country. But I have a power to end things. That's why I was able to end 7 other wars. And you know that I thought of the 7, basically 7. Those were tough wars to end. Much tougher, I thought, than the war with Ukraine and Russia. I thought that Ukraine and Russia have a very good relationship with President Putin. I thought that would be much easier. I thought that would be in the middle of the pack, maybe one of the easiest. Sometimes you never know with war. War is a very interesting thing. You never know with war. War is complex and dangerous, and what a mess, what a bloody mess. It's going to get done one way or the other. but they have to stop killing all of these souls. They're souls, and we have to stop killing. Thank you very much.
By a source and confirmed by a second source familiar with the investigation, said that the 27-year-old woman accused her significant other for over a year of having grabbed her, shoved her, and pushed her out the door, and also said the woman involved showed the officers bruises on her arm which appeared fresh. And whereas NBC4 Washington also reported that the Metropolitan Police Department identified Representative Corey Mills as the significant other of the alleged victim of assault, which alleged victim was a 27-year-old woman who was not the wife of Representative Corey Mills, and that the alleged victim let officers hear subject one, now identified by MPD as Mills, instruct her to lie about the origin of her bruises. Eventually, subject one made contact with police and admitted that the situation escalated from verbal to physical, but it was severe enough to create bruising. Whereas on February 21st, 2025, the Washington Post also confirmed two DC police officials said that the alleged victim of assault initially told a 911 operator and police that she had been assaulted, and that officers said she also had what seemed to be visible injuries, and that while a supervisor initially classified the offense internally as a family disturbance, police commanders later learned of the incident, reviewed the reports and body cam footage from the responding officers, and classified the case as domestic violence assault. And whereas on February 21st, 2025, NBC4 Washington also reported that the Metropolitan Police Department determined that probable cause to arrest Representative Corey Mills for misdemeanor assault existed and sent an arrest warrant for Representative Corey Mills to the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. However, then acting United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, refused to sign the arrest warrant for Representative Corey Mills and instead returned the case to the Metropolitan Police Department for further investigation. Whereas on July 14th, 2025, a different former romantic partner of Representative Corey Mills, who was apparently in a relationship with Representative Mills from November 2021 to February of 2025, reported to authorities in Florida that Representative Mills threatened to release nude images and other intimate videos of her and threatened to harm her future romantic partners in retaliation for her decision to end a relationship with Representative Mills after seeing the public records described above concerning the alleged February 2025 physical assault. Whereas in August of 2024, the Office of Congressional Conduct adopted and transmitted to the Committee on Ethics of the House of Representatives a report indicating that there was substantial reason to believe that Representative Corey Mills may have omitted or misrepresented required information in his financial disclosure statements, accepted excessive contributions to his campaign committee in the form of personal loans, and contributions may not have derived from Representative Corey Mills' personal funds, entered into, held, or enjoyed contracts with federal agencies while he was a member of Congress, and may have accepted through his campaign committee in-kind contributions or other contributions not lawfully made. Whereas individuals who served with Representative Corey Mills have called into question the veracity of the accounts of events which formed the basis of a recommendation that Representative Corey Mills receive an award of a Bronze Star bestowed in 2021 for his service under enemy fire in Iraq in 2003. Whereas in August of 2024, Representative Corey Mills provided the Daytona Beach News with documents purporting to prove that he earned a Bronze Star with heroism, including a Department of Army Form 638 recommending Representative Corey Mills for a Bronze Star, which includes a signature from then Army Brigade Commander Arnold N. Gordon Bray. However, retired Brigadier General Bray told the Daytona Beach News Journal in August of 2024 that he did not sign a Bronze Star recommendation for Representative Corey Mills. And whereas 5 people who served with Representative Corey Mills, including 2 men who were reported as having been personally saved by Representative Corey Mills at great risk to his own life as a basis for the recommendation for his Bronze Star in the Department of the Army Form 638, disputed that Representative Corey Mills was involved in their rescue or providing life-saving care. Whereas one private first class cited as having been involved in one of the listed achievements on Representative Corey Mills' Army Form 638, recommending him for a Bronze Star, denied that Representative Corey Mills provided him any aid, and also denied his injuries were life-threatening. Whereas one sergeant cited as having been involved in one of the listed achievements on Representative Corey Mills' Army Form 638, recommending him for a Bronze Star, called the account a fabrication, and claimed that he was not involved in any claims that Corey Mills makes about me. And whereas despite the numerous available contradictions of the accounts forming the basis of the recommendation for his Bronze Star, Representative Corey Mills described the legitimate factual disputes raised by individuals he purportedly served with and rescued as, quote, slander and defamation, end quote, in a statement to the Daytona Beach News. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Corey Mills be censured. Representative Corey Mills forthwith presents himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. And whereas Representative Corey Mills be censured with the public reading of the resolution by the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to a question of the privileges of the House and offer the resolution that was previously noticed.
A resolution offered from the floor by a member, other than the majority leader or the minority leader, as a question of the privileges of the House, has immediate precedence only at a time designated by the chair within 2 legislative days after the resolution is properly noticed. Pending that designation, the form of the resolution noticed by the gentlelady from New York will appear in the record at this point. The chair will not, at this point, determine whether the resolution constitutes a question of privilege. That determination will be made at the time designated for consideration of the resolution. purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 672 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 42, House Resolution 672. Resolved that at any time after adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill, H.R. 4553, making appropriations for energy and water development and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. General debate shall be confined to the bill and shall not exceed 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. The bill shall be considered as read. Points of order against provisions in the bill for failure to comply with Clause 2 or Clause 5A of Rule 21 are waived. Section 2A. No amendment to H.R. 4553 shall be in order except those printed in the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution. Amendments en bloc described in Section 3 of this resolution, and pro forma amendments described in Section 4 of this resolution. B. Each amendment printed in the report of the Committee on Rules shall be considered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, shall not be subject to amendment except as provided by Section 4 of this resolution, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. C. All points of order against amendments printed in the report of the Committee on Rules or against amendments en bloc described in Section 3 of this resolution are waived. Section 3. It shall be in order at any time for the Chair of the Committee on Appropriations or his designee to offer amendments en bloc consisting of amendments printed in the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution, not earlier disposed of. Amendments en bloc offered pursuant to this section shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for 20 minutes, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees, shall not be subject to amendment except as provided by Section 4 of this resolution, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. Section 4. During consideration of H.R. 4553 for amendment, the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees may offer up to 10 pro forma amendments each at any point for the purpose of debate. Section 5. At the conclusion of consideration of H.R. 4553 for amendment, the committee shall rise and report the bill to the House with such amendments as may have been adopted. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one motion to recommit. Section 6. Upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House any joint resolution specified in Section 7 of this resolution. All points of order against consideration of each such joint resolution are waived. Each such joint resolution shall be considered as read. All points of order against provision in each such joint resolution are waived. The previous question shall be considered as order on each such joint resolution and on any amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one. 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit. Section 7. The joint resolutions referred to in Section 6 of this resolution are as follows. A. The joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 104, providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Miles City Field Office